Yeah, so I don't know how to start this video. One of the coolest things about playing a video game besides the gameplay loop, the cast of characters you meet, or the genre it's even covering is the opening segment. They love to be dramatic, intense, awesome, and all up in your face, all in order to prove the point that what you're about to experience here isn't like what most other games in the franchise or really what any other media you've consumed thus far has to offer. That or perhaps justifying that your money was well spent buying the game the moment upon its initial release. At least that's what I always tell myself with Shadow the Hedgehog here. But I like this game though. Video game openings basically just tell us their own version of the game's story that will unfold and what to expect as you journey through how many hours of gameplay they tend to provide. And what's amazing about this is that so many games from the past and even present do a really good job with this aspect with the amazingly well animated openings and the music they're often paired with, all ensuring that you are in for the time of your life. So then where exactly am I even going with this stupid ass intro then? You see, openings are cool and all and add that value to the expectations that what will make a certain game memorable and perhaps enjoyable. But what we're really talking about here is more so the how and what that makes these openings so damn stylish and good from the get-go. Because for every opening comes along with a couple of important components and key pieces that makes it the very organic being that it is, which is the main highlight of this video. Otherwise, what am I even doing scripting, editing, and publishing the friggin' video in the first place? Probably to raise my own self-esteem? I don't know. But before diving into the makings of a video game opening, however, there are some key questions that needs to be addressed in order to understand the philosophy of a video game opening. First question would obviously be, well, what makes me want to enjoy this opening? Because for all intents and purposes, video game openings are meant to entice the player into wanting more from the game and expect a full experience in return. Aside from the fact that, you know, it looks cool to watch. Second would be, does it fit with the scope and narrative of the game that I'm going to be eventually playing? For if a game's opening doesn't open the window of curiosity from the player about what the game is going to present, then what's even the point of buying the game in the first place? Hence why for some titles out there currently, the openings usually are uploaded on YouTube a few months before the game's release, just in case, you know, you want to buy the game? Third, but most importantly here out of the three questions that we gotta answer ourselves here is there even a reason why the game is slapping that one big booby anime woman in the first place? Trust me, that last question is very important. And so onwards you venture on your quest to answer these questions and see what makes a good opening for a video game, stumbling upon this video in the process. Now don't worry, this isn't one of those long video essays where it starts off strong and then gets winded in the middle of it, but I do want to express my points and answer these questions of what makes a stylish video game opening as intended. After all, it's the title of the video, so I mean it makes freaking sense. Now that we are settled with this idea of finding out the basis for a really fun and interactive video game opening, I can properly start the video off by saying that video game openings are stylish because for the most part, they have more style than substance, hence answering the first sub-question of what makes them enjoyable to watch. The whole purpose of an opening in a video game of all things is to immediately satiate the thirst of what the game is going to provide the moment you press the start button. And with a hyper-detailed and sometimes well-animated openings, they ensure that your brain gets overstimulated with what the game's presentation is going to be, despite the gameplay saying otherwise. Like a Sonic game, for example. Oh god, we're already winning the Sonic fanbase with this one. Sonic games, be it 2D or 3D, is a nice bridge to cross here when it comes to stylish video game openings because no matter how much jank a game like Sonic Heroes has in its gameplay design, it will overcompensate that with the intro of Sonic and friends going about their usual business in the Sonic world. That and how Sonic Origins' opening sequence is more or less a retelling of iconic events in classic Sonic history that gives a good idea of what the game's providing lore-wise despite how much the game collection sucks. But you know what, I can't really complain though because it at least has the Sonic CD opening and that one you know is iconic for Sonic, and if I don't mention it, the Sonic fans are gonna bully me. But at their very core, Sonic openings are just over-the-top cinematic Martin Scorsese masterpieces and easily one of the greatest things surrounding the franchise despite the overall mixed reception in their games, mainline or otherwise, because of how much it stimulates the brain and tell you that this blue furball goes fast. Take a look at Sonic Riders opening, for example, where the animation was done by the very same people who gave us the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan. Like, look, I'm not even kidding, you can Google that yourself. Here we see Sonic and the gang riding with supersonic speeds with a color contrast, the palette of each character complementing each other, and the feel that this isn't your ordinary racing game is what seals the deal for many out there, despite of course being a regular racing game. But hey, you get my point. Then there's the Sonic Adventure games, with Sonic Adventure 2 having that iconic Sonic and Shadow running towards each other and posing in front of the friggin' moon, while our favorite characters throughout the series get a nice little spotlight in between. Sonic Mania likes to thrill ride fans into demonstrating the return of classic Sonic with its anniversary-like aesthetics to it, making for a perfectly good opening alongside Sonic Superstars that's soon to be released with the artistic choice design that they kinda went for them. And we also can't forget Sonic Unleashed's entire opening sequence in this conversation of style, because that opening right there practically showcases what a Sonic adventure will be from point A to point B without saying anything and just letting it present itself from the get-go. Let's not kid ourselves here, knowing full well that that particular opening has been in every single Sonic AMV since 2008. Man, Sonic is so cool. But of course, this isn't a video about Sonic openings, even though I can go on and on about them or point you to a video Splash Dash made of them, as really we have to extend the hand to other genres and games out there that do this stylish approach as well, such as JRPGs. Oh yeah, I see you Fire Emblem fans with your body pillows waiting for me to talk about Three Houses and Engage here. Well, too bad, this is as far as I'm going to talk about them. Now, JRPGs in this case, regarding style, is always going to be different, as they have these fun little CGI intros in some cases, or a completely animated opening that gives almost zero context of what the game actually is. But hey, look, you got this anime high schooler with a gun. With games at your disposal like Nier Automata, where it gets you right into the action, giving you zero time to even consider what the hell is even going on, to even a game like Disgaea, where they present each cast of characters in their unique and quirky way, their approach of style will end up differing depending on what the game's overall scope of it is. That, and also because they're fun games to play. Like, I don't understand why you're not playing Neo The World Ends With You. Also, Square Enix, that game deserved better marketing, what the hell. The Persona franchise is another good example of this stylish concept of video game openings, as they provide very little detail about what the game actually is about while just cranking everything else to an absolute 11. Persona 5 comes to mind for many in this case, given it's the most recent game to release in the franchise, with the original and royal release within the span of 6 years, as it does a very fantastic job of portraying that razzle-dazzle teenage rebellion that is one of the core concepts of the game's narrative. That, and also the anime girls, who could have thought about that one? Persona 3's level of intrigue to the player surrounding its themes of death and the moon is prevalent throughout most of its openings too, illustrating to the player that this game right here, it isn't your average RPG experience, no sir. Now you're really about to witness the arcana by which all is revealed here. Then of course, to finish off the whole concept of Persona, we can't forget Persona 4's whole Sunshine Gang-like spectacle, with Golden's opening at least, with how the characters are introduced to the bunch and like to have that pep in their step, while knowing full well you're not aware of witnessing that scene within the next 7 hours of the game. However, a game's opening with style can only go so far in terms of alluring the player into the amount of hours they plan to pour into said game they're interested in, as even these guys need a good narrative towards giving players something to look forward to down the line. These are the types of openings also that likes to give the player with enough information surrounding what the journey will entail from start to finish, and enough to acknowledge that the player is experiencing this game for the very first time, ensuring they're not lost or have no need to catch up with previous titles, as long as it's self-contained within the scope of the game's mechanics, story, and of course gameplay. Mega Man X4 does this, for example, as a means of demonstrating that you got X and Zero going about their Maverick Hunter business like the previous games, alongside some new faces that gets introduced in the process, like Double, Colonel, and Iris here, each playing important roles within the story of the game the more you play through it. Pokemon games back in the GBA and DS era love to give players a cool glimpse of the world that you are about to explore, where Pokemon Diamond and Pearl as well as Heart Gold Soul Silver comes into my mind, as they show the characters you are going to meet, the starter Pokemon you'll inevitably use, and just about every damn cool thing that surrounded these games back in the day. God, Pokemon will never truly be the same. The Bayonetta franchise, as soon as you boot up those games, has you in some sort of weird convoluted in media res like action where you learn the mechanics of the game alongside this cool cool voiceover telling the events of the game's lore and continuity, which to me is a major highlight of those games, on top of its over-the-top action set pieces. And I'm not kidding when I say over-the-top. Again, to go back to the Sonic games here, they give the idea to the player that the adventure is going to be larger than life for the blue blur of speed here, as expressed with games like Sonic Adventure, with the constant flashes of characters and white up all up in your face. And with other games out there as too, they more or less provide a backstory or general idea of what the lore behind the game you're going to be playing will be about, like the Tales series from Bandai Namco. The Tales franchise, or really anything produced by Bandai Namco, typically love giving their games the traditional anime style opening, where often, if not most of the time, they create these really cool animated openings as if the games were actual animes themselves. I mean, some of them are, but that's not really the point. Tales of Berseria almost constantly comes into mind for me in this case with this point, considering that this is the game that I spend most hours on regarding the franchise. You got your protagonist here, Velvet Crow, up in center with the party members ready to take action and fighting their foes that you get to encounter during the game, as well as fun little trinkets of anime-like moments that present the personalities behind each character you meet. And it even got some cool action sequences too that gets the player intrigued as to how these encounters could look like as you traverse through the game and learn more about the story that unfolds. And hell, this could extend to almost any other JRPG franchise out there like Kingdom Hearts here. In fact, when I said the words Kingdom Hearts from this script, I'm sure many in the peanut gallery began to transcend reality here when the first thought that popped into their minds was most likely the following. God, I love this game so much. Kingdom Hearts 2's opening is what to me defines the idea of adding a narrative to the opening, giving enough for the player to understand more or less what the hell is even happening in this franchise. And trust me, with this specific franchise, you're gonna want to need everything you can get. With a cool shot of Sora, Kairi, and Riku sitting together in Destiny Islands before Sora leaps into action with Donald and Goofy and slaying Heartless, to later fighting Marluxia in Castle Oblivion and fighting more Heartless in between in these cool stairwells, while also having Kairi showing up, all grown up now for some reason, and later then having Roxas appear at the end of the opening. But wait, you had no idea that that was even Roxas to begin with, and it was just a whole new character? God, you know what? Let me ramble about this specific opening, because there's just so much I want to talk about here, so just give me a quick second, okay? You had the gameplay, you had the ARPG gameplay mechanics, the controls, the feels of the game, the worlds were so awesome, expansive, the Organization 13 actually felt like a threat, on top of, Xemnas in the final area, the world never was, Roxas is part of the tutorial, and it's like a return character, how we fell in love with him, in Twilight Town, and all that kind of stuff. Next thing you know, Sora shows up with Dawn and Goofy ready to go, his new awesome, one of the most iconic outfits in all gaming, the Dry Forms, the Ultima Blade, Lingering Will versus Sephiroth, Hollow Bastion, the data organization battles, all that kind of critical mode, speedruns, all of that. We can go on and on and on, and that is how I'm going to tell you that Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of the greatest games of all time ever made. Anyway, what was it that I was saying before this? But that style of narrative can even go beyond Kingdom Hearts 2, as Dream Drop Distance on the Nintendo 3DS takes a similar approach by just retelling the events of the games up until that point in time, with Sora getting ready to take action against Xehanort, to even now in Kingdom Hearts 3 is also a retelling of past events and Sora taking action against Xehanort. But wait a second here. That opening of Face My Fears though, I would say is the defining feature of Kingdom Hearts 3's opening, and I would argue it's just as good as Sanctuary, okay? Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot to talk about music. And that's exactly how I'm segueing into the next part of the video. So what else do you need to make a kick-ass opening sequence, intro, or anything really to get the ball rolling? Of course a banger soundtrack, because if not, you're gonna be skipping the opening without really understanding what the game is gonna be offering until after hours of tutorials are shoved down your throat. That's why to me, a video game opening has to start off strong with not only good visuals and storytelling, but also with accompanying music that brings those concepts to life. That's why to go back to the Persona franchise and Kingdom Hearts here, those openings are not only memorable in their style and presentation, but also in their quality of music and soundtrack. Persona in this case does a very good job in this department, allowing the visuals and narrative it presents with the music it has for each opening, each allowing that center stage while being unique and vibe with the player in terms of the atmosphere of the game itself before playing. Plus, I mean, there's no way in hell your ears haven't heard the first few notes of Persona 5's opening theme and go, oh my god. Fighting games are also a crushing embodiment of presenting this best of all three worlds, as they ensure that while you'll be busy in the lab experimenting on a new character for the month, all in preparation of still getting your ass whooped in the next tournament, the opening sequences do more than enough of presenting that this fighting game ain't your typical Street Fighter, my guy. Guilty Gear Strive would be a best case here regarding that notion, as from the moment the game starts with its intro to the end, where the title screen would pop in after a few seconds, you're on a train ride getting wrecked to see all the characters fighting against one another with the most brutal song I can think of in terms of just games, period. Which is also why personally under this context, my mind heads straight to Tekken 5's opening intro, where the music playing on full blast along with the cool CGI sequences ensure that to the player here that this fighting game has an in-world universe that is pretty cool to explore as a bonus. Just seeing Asuka Kazama jump off a friggin' building with her bicycle, to moments of Steve Fox and Hwoarang fighting against each other in a train yard, to Anna and Nina Williams having a bazooka grenade sister brawl in the middle of the streets, the music here gives you a clear idea of the highs and lows of the Tekken franchise. Plus, I genuinely think this is like one of the coolest Tekken openings by far, and the second best one would be like Tekken Tag Tournament 2 on the Nintendo Wii U. Look, I don't make the rules here. Moving on with Tekken, I can't forget to discuss the raging hard-ons of the Dragon Ball franchise, as the Budokai games demonstrate the idea of not only playing as your favorite Dragon Ball characters, but they also look so damn cool fighting in general. Budokai 2 and 3 highlight this point with how well the music plays in tone of the game you're playing. If you want a cool sequence of events that are retelling the events of the anime and also showcasing the vast cast of characters, Budokai 2's guitar riff and Japanese vocals got you covered there. Or you want a more dynamic fighting based opening where your favorite characters are going toe to toe to some iconic Dragon Ball villains, and even having a stronger guitar riff and rock and roll vibes throughout it, to even seeing Goku and Vegeta touching tips to summon Gogeta and fight Broly as like the icing on the cake with this one. Well, Budokai 3 got you that one, and we can also argue Tenkaichi 3 too, because it's kind of like the same thing, but you know what, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, just seeing Gogeta and Broly, god, that makes anime fighting so damn raw. But as you can see here though, video game openings are crucial in terms of providing a substance in the beginning of the player's experience, and more so than not, it even gives players the most important moment in their gaming careers. It is that determining factor between enjoying the game or really loving the game from the moment they started to the moment they ended, because they got that idea warped in their minds about the game's presentation thanks to that opening cinematic. I mean, who hasn't said that their favorite part about a video game was the way it opened things up for them and welcome the player to the arms and the world with its fantasies? Because if they haven't, then they're probably just playing Fortnite, in which case, go play a freaking RPG or Uncharted for once in your life. And as much as I can go on with a notion about video game openings, which honestly I can, but we gotta stop at some point, the main point I do hope to express here is that in order for a video game opening to be iconic and stand out from the crowd of other games out there, it needs these three pillars as mentioned. Otherwise, it's gonna fade into existence, and when brought up at some point, people will just shrug at it or say, oh, this was a video game? And of course, because there are so many video games out there, there are a lot that I didn't highlight in this video here, because again, we would be here all day long. But I do want to know what are some of your favorite video game openings in the comments down below. Hell, link them for all I care too, because I want to see them, and maybe I can get around to playing those games because of the openings in the future. So, you know, that's like a possibility there, so you might as well try out and see, because I honestly don't think I can go on talking about Pokemon and Sonic for another week. Like, please, give me some good recommendations. Save me from my misery here, please.